Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is a
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to the, you better believe it's 50 degrees warm kind of edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com on this 11th day of April 2023. Settle in for what should be a fun show for us today. You Timberwolves fans on the edge of your seat for a playoff boat race tonight. Can we even call, I don't even think it's actually a playoff game. I do not believe it is officially recognized as a postseason game tonight for you Timberwolves fans out there that are going to stay up late and see what happens against LeBron and the Lakers. I think I can already give you a sneak peek. Slam dunk. I think there's going to be a few of those tonight. But you know what? It's happened different times this season with this basketball team where we think, they're going to get their you-know-what's kicked. They end up performing pretty well. So we'll see what happens tonight for this one against the Lakers in the play-in game that's coming up later tonight. We'll get to the Wolves dramatics continuing here in just a little bit. We got a fun show today. I want to talk on a topic that's been close to our show in a little bit. The sports betting bill was officially killed yesterday in the North Dakota House. Not that I thought there was a lot of... Actually, you know what? I did. I thought there was some momentum this could actually happen, this legislative session, to potentially get it to the voters for next November in 2024. I think I'm firmly in the mindset North Dakota might be the last of the 50 states to pass this. I believe there are 35 states that are already on board. I know Minnesota hasn't yet, and there's plenty of heat there. The reasoning why that some of the law, and granted, the lawmakers in Bismarck have their own issues on a few topics that I'm not going to dive into because my own political beliefs sometimes have already got me in trouble on this show. But and I mean trouble in a sense that viewers disagree, and that's fine. This one makes little to no sense, and I think just some sunshine on it from our program would be worthwhile. So we'll do that coming up in just a little bit. Also, as many know that watch our show, listen to our show, we are a sports TV hub. And the big news that came out this morning from Google and YouTube, they have announced the pricing for what Sunday Ticket is going to cost this year. We'll dive into that coming up in just a little bit. I think the sticker shock might get some people, but we'll peel back the curtain a little bit on that because I think it's it may not be as surprising to some once you find out a little bit of the nitty-gritty of what they're offering. Also, we've got, I mentioned we are in the midst of mock draft season, so there is another a mock draft available. Mel Kiper has put out his latest mock draft, which we'll dive into that in just a little bit as well. So we'll get to all of that kind of good stuff here on a busy Tuesday. But we start always with our highlights of the night, and the Minnesota Wild, minus nearly everybody. Kaprizov didn't play last night. They brought up Brock Faber, who made his NHL debut just 2 days after his Gophers lost in the national championship game, playing in Chicago against the Blackhawks, who were in full tank mode. And the Wild seemed like that early on. Matt Boldy scoring his 31st goal of the season here on a nifty goal. His 31st, as I mentioned, makes it a 1-zip Minnesota lead. The game is tied at 1 here in the second period. Anders Bjork will give Chicago the lead, a team that's, again, just completely out of it. The Wild playing as such. Then Chicago scores here, and this is what I flipped the game on with 12 minutes to go in the third. But the goal is going to be waved off. You'll see it here that it's no goal. Still really don't have a great explanation of why it wasn't a goal, but it's waved off. So it remains 2-1. The Blackhawks get a power play, but apparently that's when Minnesota is most lethal. Marcus Johansson with a tremendous shorthanded goal that ties the game up at 2. Just over 2.5 minutes later, Johansson comes in a nifty pass from Boldy. That gives the Wild a 3-2 lead. They would get an empty netter from Gustav Nyquist, and the Wild steal one in the third period, getting 3 goals within a 4.5 minute stretch. You see the guys who didn't even go, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Spurgeon, Brodin, because the Wild play tonight, and they're able to get 2 points against a bad Chicago team, but that game looked like it was lost for a while. Now, here's the intriguing part. Because some were out there speculating, even on ESPN's broadcast last night, saying maybe the Wild don't want to, quote-unquote, win because they want to match up with Dallas for the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs rather than play the Avalanche. Colorado still has a game in hand on both Dallas and the Wild. These are the up-to-date standings as we sit here this morning. The Avalanche and Dallas each are tied at 104 points. The Wild sit there at 102. Minnesota has Winnipeg coming into XL Energy Center tonight. The Flames, by the way, are trying to catch the Jets. It says they were officially eliminated now. I've got the E next to them. So Calgary has been officially eliminated now from playoff contention because of the result last night. They lost to Nashville. The Predators are still alive. By the way, the Wild play Nashville in the final game of the season. So that's where it stands. Colorado, as I mentioned, has 3 games left in the regular season. That starts tonight with Connor McDavid and the Oilers for Colorado. That's who they have tonight, the game on ESPN. Then they play Winnipeg and Nashville. Obviously, the Wild play Winnipeg and Nashville as well down the stretch. I mean, you can... I don't like that maneuvering deal. I know it happens more in the NBA than I can remember in hockey of trying to line up who you're going to play. I'm not a big fan of that, but if that's what the Wild are trying to do and get Dallas, good. I mean, Dallas is still pretty good. This is what the projected playoffs would look like here as we're into the final week of the NHL regular season. Vegas would play Winnipeg, Edmonton, L.A., Colorado would play Seattle. That'd be a fun series. Vegas, by the way, is the number 1 overall seed in the West. And then you see the Dallas and Minnesota series. Meanwhile, we know Boston is the best team in the NHL, would match up with the Islanders, who are currently a point ahead of Pittsburgh. The Penguins are still Pittsburgh. All they have to do is win their final 2, and they will make it. Toronto and Tampa. Carolina would play Florida, and New Jersey would play the Rangers. That would be fun for friends back out home. So that's where we sit. Wild play again tonight, as I mentioned, against Winnipeg with the final regular season home game for Minnesota coming up tonight. Now, off of that, because we've got the Minnesota trifecta tonight. We got the Twins, the Wild, and the Wolves all playing tonight. And for the Timberwolves, they will play in Los Angeles tonight without Rudy Goebert. Not surprising, the news came down early yesterday afternoon that the Timberwolves officially suspended Goebert for his punch of Kyle Anderson that happened after these plays in the game on Sunday. He and Anderson, of course, got into a jawing match, and then, of course, Goebert ends up punching him. And this was a no-brainer. They had to suspend him, and they will be without his services tonight. Again, everything is focused on this. I still think the more attention needs, and I think the dumber play was what Jaden McDaniels did. It came out yesterday, I believe John Krasinski from The Athletic reported that McDaniels thought it was just a curtain that he was punching and didn't know the curtain was in front of a brick wall. Now, you can dissect that any which way you'd like, but it's just dumb. It's just immaturity. You can't have that. And all the news and the attention yesterday was on the Goebert punching his own teammate deal, which, frankly, I mean, Draymond Green literally punched and knocked over Jordan Poole before, and he hit him right in the face. That happened before this season started, and things have moved on from that. The McDaniels part is a big deal because he's been so good defensively, especially on LeBron, which in a game tonight, that's why that to me is the dumber of the two injuries. And you just shake your head at it. For an organization that has had literally everything happen to them, right? This was the one thing that hadn't yet. And the Wolves have that. Chip Scoggins in the Star Tribune in his column today. Somewhere David Kahn and Gerson Rosas should raise a glass to toast their brothers. Nothing is ever too far-fetched for the Wolves, which means they'll probably put up a heck of a fight tonight against the Lakers. That's what I was saying off the top. Maybe they'll actually go and win this game. It's one of two things that's going to happen tonight. They're either going to win the game and clinch the 7th seed, or they're going to lose by 50, or get blown out of the building. There's no in-between for the Timberwolves here tonight. And I'll remind people that aren't familiar with the NBA play-in process, you win tonight, the winner of this game is the 7th seed and will play Memphis in the playoffs. The loser will host either New Orleans or Oklahoma City on Friday night. And then the winner of that game will be the 8th seed and play Denver in the opening round. So the Wolves have 2 tries to win 1 game. Goebert would play in the game Friday if the Wolves lose tonight. If the Wolves win, he'll be back, and I believe their playoff series is slated to start on Sunday. It's just, you just shake your head at it. You really do. Only the Timberwolves. Lastly, before we wrap up our opening segment, if you missed this last night, shame on you. Second, it was the game of the night, and it always is. When the United States and Canada play each other in women's hockey, and they were playing in the final game of the round robin last night at the Women's World Hockey Championship in Brampton, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. That's Wayne Gretzky's hometown. And as you'd expect, they played another tremendous game. Canada led this game 2-1 in the third period. USA had pulled their goaltender, and they score. Laura Stacey with the empty net goal to make it 3-1. The United States, though, no one told them the game was over. When they pull the goalie again, Hillary Knight will score here down low, and a goal that was reviewed, and it counted to make it a 3-2 game. Now in the dying seconds here, Amanda Kessel with a backhander with 6 seconds to go ties it up at 3 right there to have us go to overtime. In OT, Knight had a chance there to score. Nice save on the backhand. So we go to a shootout. Knight scores, ties it up at 1. Bottom of the 5th. This could win it for the USA, but Kessel has stopped there. So we keep going. Now in the top of the 9th inning, or bottom of the 9th, that's Jamie Lee Rattray who scores for Canada, and that gives the Canadians the win and the top of the group stage, 4-3, the final in the shootout. Another classic between these two teams to give Canada the win, and they will be the top team in that portion of the knockout round. The United States will play in the quarterfinals coming up on Thursday. Again, it's the best rivalry in the world. There's nothing, because every single time they have overtime or a shootout. I understand for the gold medal, when they played last winter in Beijing, that was a comfortable Canadian win, which is one of the rarities that's happened in this rivalry, but literally 9 out of 10 times they're playing overtime or a shootout, much like they had last night. It's the best. There's nothing else that compares to it. And they lived up to that billing once again last night in Ontario. And we'll imagine they're going to see each other again for the gold medal later this weekend. We have a packed show coming up for you here on this Tuesday morning. Our usual Tuesday lineup of guests. Mike McFeely will be by at 9:35. We'll visit with Mike on his trip down to see the Twins in the first 2 home games of the season. They lost yesterday to the White Sox, to the Twins, without still Carlos Correa dealing with back spasms. Byron Buxton didn't play. He pinch hit late in the game yesterday. We'll visit with Mike coming up on the Twins' good start. They're 6-4 at 9:35. Kyle Emanuel will be by at 10 o'clock as we are now in full draft prep mode. We'll talk with him about where things stand and around the NFL, including with Mel Kiper's new mock draft. We'll dissect that. He went 2 rounds, and we'll get into that coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, Bismarck's Cade Feeney will join us, North Dakota State junior standout pitcher of the Summit League Pitcher of the Week. After the Bison knocked off Texas Tech, Cade was on the mound for that game, went 6 innings. North Dakota State getting set for a matchup tonight in the Twin Cities against the University of Minnesota. They'll stay in the Twin Cities. He'll be on the mound on Friday when they open up their Summit League series against the University of St. Thomas. So we'll visit with Cade coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more on our show. We come back. Sports betting ain't happening, at least for a while in North Dakota. Why is that the case? We'll dive into that when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike here on WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. Got a busy show coming up for you here on this Tuesday. Great to see the weather outside. We're doing some more melting today. I saw our friends over at West Fargo Cheyenne, the track team there, sent me a photo yesterday, and I tweeted it out, of the track team out practicing with massive amounts of snow still around the track, but they were actually on the track for the first time. Again, only in North Dakota can we do that. And as I tweeted out, the state meet is only 6 weeks away. Be great. First time they're going to be outside. Might be for the conference meet, but I guess better late than never on that. I wanted to hit on something we've talked about on this show. Saw the headline yesterday in the Forum. Sports betting measure dies in North Dakota Senate. The issue will not go to the voters. Yesterday, the state Senate killed the resolution bill presented by our good friend Greg Steeman by a 30-16 vote. The measure would have required the legislature to authorize sports betting in North Dakota with licensing and regulation by the state. The House of Representatives passed the measure back in January by 5 votes. If it was approved, it would have gone to the voters for the general election of next November, in November of 24. And the reasoning for it by some of the senators yesterday just sounds, frankly, outdated. Senator David Rust from Tioga, I just think that gambling in North Dakota has mushroomed to the point where I have in no way, shape, or form a desire to expand it. Where is it mushroomed? People are doing it illegally or online. I mean, that's the only way you can do it in North Dakota is illegally offshore betting right now. Senator from Edinburgh says sports betting essentially uses our athletes as human commodities. Again, I'm not sure on that. That one, I'm not quite sure on that reasoning. I understand full well the perils of it, the addiction part of it. I think everybody knows who watches this show. Heck, we have our own gambling segment with my dad that comes on during the football season. He lives in a state where it has been now legal for almost 2 years now. The amount of money that New York has profited from it is astronomical. New Jersey the same way. As I mentioned, 35 of the 50 states are on board with this. Did I think this was going to happen in North Dakota? Probably not in my heart of hearts, if you were to ask me. I'm still kind of surprised by the reasoning for it. According, again, this is from Jack Dura's article in the forum. The Senate last month killed Senate Judiciary Committee amendments to the resolution that would have allowed but not required the legislature to authorize sports betting and only for professional sports. The House in January had defeated the same amendments. Supporters touted the measure as an effort to regulate and bring oversight and consumer protections to sports betting, which is already happening in North Dakota, technically illegally. Again, because I think some of the in the legislature thinking that this was going to happen, that people were going to bet on high school sports. Like, I had heard that. Like, what? No. And some were fretting over the betting of college sports on NDSU games and UND games. What do you think? What do you think happens in betting? I mean, suddenly is a Bison going to throw a game because there's a bet on it? Or they're not going to score a touchdown because the point spread was 7? I mean, I'm not sure what they think happens with this. I really don't. And you're missing out on an opportunity for revenue here. That's all it is. You know, the sports book that is down now in Hankinson at Dakota Magic, which is fairly impressive. I've had a chance to be inside there, and it's, I think, pretty lucrative for the casino that's there in Hankinson. To me, I think some just are not informed on the subject. I really do. I think that some see it as a vice from the 50s and the 60s of the dark pool areas with the smoke in the bar room kind of deal. That's not how it operates now. You could literally, my dad has told us on the show that he can literally sit on his computer and place a bet on a Bison game, whatever. Doesn't have to leave even his house. You know, he's bet on a Timberwolves game. I don't think he's probably watched a Timberwolves game in his life, but he's bet on one. That is the regulation that there is. And how's this? When he came to visit us, when he came out to visit last summer, his software is GPS sensitive there. He cannot place a bet outside of the state of New York. There are regulations on this. That if you live even in Minnesota, you couldn't do it. That's where my wife and I live. He couldn't place a bet. If he went across state lines to North Dakota, couldn't do it. Like there is firm guardrails on this that I think we're just missing here. We just are. And it's a chance that for an extra amount of revenue that is just going by the wayside. And it's too bad, because of some outdated and outline thinking here. That, to me, is the part that's kind of, I just shake my head at. We can get back into this later in the show. And I'd like to talk about this later in the week as well. One other thing, and it's another topic we've been following for a bit. Today, Google and YouTube announced the pricing for NFL Sunday Ticket. That, remember, that is leaving DirecTV. NFL signed a deal, pretty lucrative one, over $2 billion each year with YouTube and Google. And the pricing on this, the sticker shock might get you. Now, I had Sunday Ticket and the Red Zone. And I did the math on this. What I paid total on it for the entire year, I paid $396 for it. I got Sunday Ticket and I got the Red Zone through DirecTV. If you are a YouTube TV subscriber, here are the rates now. It'll be $349 for the season. It'll be $389 if you bundle with the Red Zone. It'll go up to $489 if you're a non-YouTube TV subscriber, like myself. I know we've got a bunch of YouTube TV people that watch the show because they stream it or they listen to the podcast. If you're a non-YouTube TV subscriber, it's going to be $449 for the whole season. You can get it for $349 today. It went on sale today, and I believe that goes all the way till June the 6th. That's when the pre-sale ends. If you're a YouTube TV subscriber, you can get it for $249 between now and June 6th. What's not a part of this? That's the part that's interesting. And this may still come. You cannot get your favorite team and just watch their games. That's not a done deal yet, but it's not included here. From Pro Football Talk, omitted from the press release is any reference to the ability to purchase out-of-market games for one team at a time, 1 week at a time, or one game at a time. Instead, you apparently will still have to buy it all in order to have any of it, which seems like an antitrust violation hiding in plain sight. The best news is that customers no longer will need to have a satellite dish or subscribe to DirecTV. Sunday Ticket will stream anywhere and everywhere as long as you have a good enough Wi-Fi. And that leads us to our poll question for today. After seeing the YouTube TV price for Sunday Ticket, will you be getting it for the 2023 football season? We've got it up on our Hot Mic Twitter page. You can vote now. It's either sure, nope, too much money, or I didn't have it anyway. I know when I got my satellite dish, this is now, 15 years ago, and I got it expressly for two reasons. I got it for the MLB package at the time and the Sunday Ticket to watch my two favorite teams, to watch the Jets and the Mets. I didn't hesitate on it. And I think you saw the proliferation of satellite dishes around the area. It's crazy. And I think talking with a couple of the satellite companies in town, it was for that exact reason, to get Sunday Ticket. And what I'm interested in now is, with it being streamed and the amount of how popular fantasy is, how many people will still get it now? And outside of our state and Minnesota, where gambling is allowed, this is a huge deal. Because you want to know, if you placed a bet on the Colts to beat the Falcons, you want to know how the game is going. That's why I think subscriptions on this will not suffer. I do not believe so. And honestly, I think the NFL, like to Florio's point, is missing a huge deal here. Because if you had the ability to just buy the Vikings, if I'm a Viking fan living in New York, because obviously the games would be blacked out here, why I would do that? I don't care about, and frankly, I don't. Like, as a Jet fan, I don't care how the Titans are doing against the Chargers. There's no, I don't care. And frankly, the red zone was a cool deal. I liked having the red zone part of that, because if the red zone was on, I'm like, oh, this game is tight, I'll flip this game on. So I don't know. The sticker shock will get some people. It got me when I saw it, and then I found my bill for what I paid last year. I'm like, oh, all right, well, that was pretty much exactly what I was paying. And I mean, I could take the dish down, maybe. We can get back into that later on in the show. We'll take a break. Hot Mic continues after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Mike McFeely around the bend. We come back.
Oh, it's Mr. McFeely.
I have seen the future, and he was wearing number 5, and I ain't talking about Robbie Grimsley, folks.
Took out the muffins, took out the trail mix, took out the cookies. They stole the monster cookies.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do some broadcasting.
Yeah. So from what I hear, that's a very popular video. That blew up. We put that on our Twitter account.
Well, what I'll say is, and I took some screenshots of it because I didn't notice last week, but I'm sorry, who put it together? I apologize.
Matt Hopper did that.
So Matt Hopper, who put this together, he somehow did some weirdo editing with the video and made my face like Jack Nicholson's face in The Shining and Ben Stiller's face in what's that silly movie?
Zoolander movie?
Zoolander, yeah.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. And I look at that, I watched it like several times last week and went, wait a second, that's my face. Who's the person like on the runway that he has me like with the feather boa on? Who is that?
Oh God, I gotta look at it again. I don't remember now. I have to look.
I couldn't. That one looks most like me. And it's like super creepy. But I have to say, I look damn good.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't. The classic good looks are the classic good looks, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it again. Okay, so we got Jack Nicholson. We got you as Jim Carrey. I don't know who that one is actually. I don't know that one. The feather boa walking around.
Yeah, not that's. I know that.
I know. Yeah. Yep. There's Ben Stiller. We know the Dana Carvey old
Dana
man
Carvey,
one.
yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Oh,
I don't know.
well.
I'll have to ask Matt about that one. He's not here today. So, I got to ask you a couple things because you've seen the entire history of the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. Where does Sunday rank in the annals of how
it's the greatest,
train wreck of the franchise?
It's the greatest day ever.
It's number one.
It's number one. How can it not be? It's the greatest day ever.
A game they had to have.
And they won the game.
And they won.
Let's not shove that aside. They won the game to get into the seventh slot or eighth slot or whatever, so they can go out and get their butts kicked in L.A. today against the Lakers. But what other team has the guy that they sold the franchise for, Rudy Goebert, take a punch at another player during the game and during a timeout
in the second quarter,
get told to go home? Like he's a third grader in elementary school. Okay, it's time for you to go home, Rudy. Have your mom come and pick you up at the principal's office. And then Jaden McDaniels punches a wall.
Which he thought was a curtain, we found out. He thought there was he didn't know there was a brick wall.
It's like, you can't, as the cliche, you can't make it up.
With this franchise, I mean, it just.
No, it's just I don't know. I know the Timberwolves have a significant following.
Yeah. Attendance was really good this year, too.
I don't know how you can be a fan of this franchise. What's there to like? What has been there to like for 20 years? The last time they've been enjoyable to watch was, I think it was 2002.
2004. 2004, they made the Western Conference Finals.
When they made the Western Conference Finals with Garnett and Cassell and Sprewell, and those guys were their own, dysfunction. But at least they were fun to watch and talented and good. And these guys are just a mediocre collection of stumps.
Yeah.
And then they have no discipline. They're immature. And how can you like Karl Anthony Towns? That's the other one. That's the guy for like the last 4 years. Every year I ask myself, how do you like this guy? He's a whiner. He complains about the officiating.
And that was the funny part, the ironic part. Cat was like the even-keeled guy on Sunday.
But just the whole...
Anthony Edwards is one I like. I love watching him play. Then that's when you want to build. Sure, you want to build around.
Right.
But
Good luck with Rudy Goebert.
I know.
The millstone around the franchise's neck. And Goebert was the guy who 2 weeks ago was bringing up the conspiracy theories about how the officials were against the Timberwolves. This is a professional basketball player. No. Make more baskets. Play defense. Somebody play defense on the Timberwolves. Rudy Goebert, make a basket besides a dunk.
It's just
so dysfunctional and
that franchise, right?
Ugly and just wonderful. It's just wonderful garbage.
So either they will go out and lose by 100 tonight, or they'll win the game.
If I could bet in North Dakota, I'd bet it on that one. That they lose by 100 tonight, and they'll probably win on Friday night at home.
Oh man!
And then they'll go to Memphis and get beat 4 games to 1 or 3 games to 1, and that'll be it. Just like it was a year ago.
It's just shake.
I just hope that when they win the play-in game on Friday, that somebody stands on the table and does this.
Pat Beverly did
last year.
So good.
I mean, even he was fun last year because he was a pain in the. He was one of those guys that you hate to play against, but you love to have on your team. But he was entertaining. At least he was fun.
Right. Yep.
I mean, there's nothing entertaining about this team except maybe
Anthony Edwards. Edwards gets me to watch.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Timberwolves games. It's just like, just Goebert. Just go back to.
They were expected to win 54, 55 games, and they won 42.
Yeah.
They were expected to be a top 2 or 3
they had the
seed.
worst record against like sub 500 teams in the NBA. They're terrible against bad teams, which is a sign of just immaturity and mediocrity.
I know it. So you actually were down at Target Field for the first 2. Do you go with all 3 or just the first 2 games?
First 2.
For the Twins opening up the home part of the
Sunday
calendar.
was Easter, Dom. I'm not maybe not into that much, but
all right.
I have a family that sort of likes me, so figured I should be around for that.
But the world champs were in town, the Houston Astros, and the Twins had a walk-off win on Friday, and then they blasted the Astros on Saturday. The crowds were good.
And then since then, it's all been but it's terrific. The games move, man.
Yes.
They just go. It's you don't have to, you barely have time to get, like for an old guy like me, between innings or during the game, you can get up and go, maybe use the restroom and stretch your legs a little bit. And you don't have time to do that because the game is just, there's 2 outs before you know it in an inning, which is great. I think that in the long term, we've talked about it before, it's going to get people to come to the games because there's just no downtime.
No.
Other than between innings, that's part of the game. That's built into the game of baseball.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's to let the pitchers warm up and
they didn't change the commercial time, right, Mike? That's still
it's 2 minutes.
Right.
There's
so
a clock
that's
that
still
starts.
the same because people were asking me, well, they trimmed the
No,
they didn't do
not.
that.
No,
right.
no, there's a clock in the stadium. There's 2 clocks visible from the press box that I could see in Target Field. There's one in left center field, and there's one in sort of kind of right center field. And they count down from 15 seconds. The second the pitcher gets the ball, is 15 seconds, 20 seconds with the guy on base. And then when the inning ends, boop, they pop up 2 minutes. And it counts down. And they do not, and the umpires were very quick to call strikes and to call balls. And they made no hesitation at all in doing that. And the game moves.
Yeah.
Because the batters don't get out of the box. The pitchers don't fiddle with their hair, walk around the back of the mound and scrape their shoes off. And if there is a time when a batter gets, brushed out of the box or something or fouls a ball off his foot, there's still a built-in mechanism to allow them to gather themselves and kind of, rub some dirt on it and get back in the box. But after the second game, Patrick Royce asked Rocco Baldelli in his post-game press conference, is this the greatest, where would you rank this as the greatest inventions of all time? And Baldelli said, this is the greatest invention in baseball history.
I mean, that's...
And he goes, we have seen some great innovation in baseball over the years. Baldelli said, in this moment, this is the greatest thing I've seen happen in baseball since I've been involved because the game moves.
Yeah.
It's not so much about for a professional baseball player manager, it's not about the time of game so much because what do they care? For a fan and the media that matters, but but he said the game just moves. There's no dead time.
No.
You're not like going, my God, get back in the box and hit.
So you tweeted out the game Friday, the 10-inning game, 3-2 Twins win 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Yes.
For an extra inning game?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. How can you not be on board with that?
I think the last I saw, and this may be old news, but the last I saw, I think an average game across the league was 235, I want to say. That's 45 minutes shorter than the game time in 2021.
It's amazing.
2021 was a record year, 3 hours and 10 minutes for a baseball game. That's average.
Yeah, right.
Right? The average game now is 45 minutes less than that.
I don't see there's a downside here.
No.
I don't understand the counter that's not good.
You should talk to Eric Peterson.
I know.
He'll let you know what the downsides are.
Now, on the other side of it, though, the banning of the shift, the bigger base, the stuff that I know we're not thrilled with. Did you know? Was that a thing? Was that a thing that bugged you?
The banning of the shift that's fine because you're not seeing all the wacky stuff going on.
Different defenses that are out there.
I mean, that to me, still, you can beat the shift by just beating the shift.
By going the other way.
Right. I mean,
Trevor Larnach did that in the game you were at. Actually hit the ball to left field. Like, holy cow, it can happen.
So the shift thing to me was more of a manufactured fix. The time clock is like, just move the game along.
Fantastic. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We touched on this a little bit yesterday. We're going to have a second coaching change in the Summit League on the men's side. The Western Illinois job is open. We'll discuss that with Mike and a couple other topics. We wrap up hour one right after this on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Email comes in. Dom, ask Mike about the Western Conferences, meaning the Mountain West Conference, seeking Texas teams with no apparent interest in the Bison for expansion. We visited on this yesterday in the story from John
Canzano.
Yep.
And he does a good job of reporting. He's not throwing stuff against the wall. I know that there was somebody on Twitter yesterday that was accusing him of just basically making things up. I don't think John does that. He's a pretty good reporter. It makes sense, I guess, if you're looking at what we now know about expansion. It's not so much about, even though I think NDSU is a name more than Texas, San Antonio,
UTEP,
and they do have fans that travel. That's been proven more than most other schools of their size. That's been proven. The quality of their program is obviously beyond question, but none of that stuff I don't think seems to matter because we're just so geographically isolated up here. I think that's it seems like if Fargo was where Omaha is, it seems like we'd
already be done.
Yeah, we'd be in a better spot.
Yep.
And by we, I mean Fargo Moorhead, geographically to get into a better FBS conference or into an FBS conference, but just we're so geographically isolated. It's just that's the roadblock.
Email goes on to say, if Sam Houston State gets into the Mountain West for NDSU, is McFeely's head going to explode?
Yes, it will. Yes.
Because Sam Houston was mentioned. It was Sam Houston, UTEP, and Texas San Antonio.
And then somebody else I mentioned, I saw Texas State as well, which is, but again,
I know.
It's all these schools are much larger than North Dakota State. Yep. Texas San Antonio is in a great market. Yep. And they're in the state of Texas.
And actually, they've been good in football. They've been
Texas,
all right.
San Antonio.
All right.
We talked about that last December when Incarnate Word was in the playoffs. Nobody in San Antonio cares about Incarnate Word.
No.
The focus is on Texas San Antonio. But I don't even know if it's not so much about the media markets anymore. It's about recruiting. And
it's not about it's not the TV stuff is not. That's not.
I don't
anymore.
think that's. Maybe it is for the Pac-12 trying to put together a multi-gajillion dollar deal.
Right.
But when you're talking about the Mountain West,
not for the group of five ones.
The TV stuff is not a major thing. It's more about, I think, recruiting. That I think there are those who believe that if the Mountain West has a team or two in Texas, then that would open up Texas to Mountain West recruiting. Right. So Wyoming could go into Texas and say, leave Texas and come to Laramie, which is good luck with that.
But then, hey, you can go play a game in Texas.
You can go play a game or two in Texas.
Every other year.
Other year. Yep. Or if there's two Texas teams in every year, maybe you split it up or whatever.
That's I think
that's the
pitch on that. Absolutely.
Because that's a big deal in the Missouri Valley Conference, as we learned with NDSU, to make it local and make it people sort of explain it is, when UND was in the Big Sky Conference, they had a hell of a time recruiting. They couldn't get Midwest kids, the good ones, to go to UND because all the games were on the West Coast.
Right, you're playing in Washington, California, and Arizona.
If you're a kid from Minneapolis, your parents are going, well, I'm not going to fly to Sacramento to watch my kid play, but they can drive to Vermilion, Brookings, Fargo, Grand Forks, Cedar Falls. There's many schools, and so that's a big deal in recruiting. The geographic footprint of a conference is a big deal for
the group of five.
Yes.
Do not look at me and talk about the Big Ten because it's not the same.
No,
that is not the same.
Nope.
We're talking the group of five. And when we're talking about that is because I think we all believe San Diego State has a foot and a half out the door to the Pac-12.
To go to the Pac-12 once UCLA and USC go to the Big Ten.
That after San Diego State's basically month-long resume after their run to the NCAA basketball championship.
But we also know with realignment that we don't know what's going to happen.
You're exactly right.
I mean, that's all. I mean, really? Kennesaw State?
Yeah. Didn't see that one coming.
Sam Houston?
Nope.
I mean, none of these we saw coming. No. But what we did learn from all of this was its geography. And footprint more than what NDSU has a great brand and fans that travel and they win and they're going to make your conference better.
Yep.
I don't know if that's
enough.
I don't know if that's going to outweigh.
No.
Fargo has an advantage though because you can fly in here.
That part, the
I mean,
location of the airport.
You can fly in.
Yeah.
You can't fly. Grand Forks, just to throw that example out there, the UND teams actually now drive to Fargo and fly out, and teams fly into Fargo
and then bus up
and bus to Grand Forks because it's so expensive to fly into Grand Forks. And Brookings, you have to fly into Sioux Falls and drive the hour 10 or whatever it is up to Brookings.
Speaking of recruiting, we know how difficult it is to get to Macomb, Illinois. Rob Jeter, the men's basketball coach there, now has taken the Southern Utah job, which is those are two towns you've been to Cedar City and to Macomb. What do we make of this move?
I just wanted out of Macomb. I think that just says where Western Illinois is and where Macomb is right now in the landscape of college athletics.
It ain't good.
No, it's not. And you're just never going to be able to keep coaches there long term if they're any good.
Right.
And Jeter's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, he actually won there.
He got Western most wins they had in a decade.
Yes. And so that's just going to be Western Illinois going forward is just going to be
not good.
A disaster.
Yeah.
It's the worst job in the league in almost every sport. And I don't know how that changes. It's the worst football job in the league. In the Valley, it's the worst men's basketball job in the league.
Is it now with Murray State now and there?
Yes.
On football?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Not even close.
I'm intrigued on that with who takes that job.
Murray has more finances, and it's in a better location than Macomb. Yep.
Yeah. I'm intrigued on who takes that job because Western was good.
There'll always be somebody because it's a Division I job that pays 150 actually Jeter was making over 200, I think.
Yeah, because of his experience he had at Milwaukee.
And so they put money into the position,
and they got players there too. They had a solid
in the
team.
transfer portal era. You're going to be able to do something, even though it's a terrible job.
I know we got to go here. April 23rd, is that the big day here for Grant Nelson? We're hearing on potential of what could come down the pipe.
Yeah, he should.
We should have news sometime soon, right?
Yeah, well, we should have news sometime soon, as I wrote last week, on an agent, on an agency representing him. And then once that happens, he's got until April 23rd at 11:59 to enter the NBA draft, to be eligible underclassmen for the NBA draft, and that will happen.
And then we'll go from there.
We'll go from there.
It's going to be real intriguing from there. So.
Yeah, to see what happens.
Great stuff, man. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
Betcha.
Each and every Tuesday, Mike McFeely joins us here on The Big Show. We'll take a break. Kyle Emanuel coming up around the bend as now we start the hype for the NFL draft, which is just, 16 days away. We'll do that when we start hour 2 of Hot Mike right after this.
Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Kyle Emanuel takes it all the way.
Upended at the 35-yard line. Emanuel.
Kyle Emanuel. We love this player, the way he plays. Man, this guy makes plays.
Is sacked by Kyle Emanuel, the winner of the Buck Buchanan Award. That goes to the best defensive player in the country.
Great to see Kyle back here at studio as we are T-minus 16 days and counting from the NFL draft. Yesterday, about noon, the front page of ESPN's college football had the Toothless Wonder and Cody Mauch. So
I was wondering when someone was going to write that article. I mean, it seemed like a missed opportunity that no one had yet. I mean, I think they called him the most interesting lineman in the draft or something. Well, yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah.
How did it take this long to know this?
So the official ramp up is here. Mel Kiper has his latest. He has a 2-round mock that's out right now on ESPN.com. Kyle, and we were just talking off air. Cody's name is not in there, which I don't take that for what it's worth because we don't. It's all it is. But that seems a little surprising to me.
I agree. I think McShay had one last week, and it was the same thing. He did 2 rounds and he didn't have Cody in there. And as we were just talking, I just don't know. He didn't do anything to hurt it. I thought the only thing he did was help himself throughout this entire draft process. And now, here we are. And again, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Again, it only takes one team to like a guy to take a chance, if you will, on him. It just doesn't really make sense. If when people were mocking him at the end of the first round, and then you think, well, all he's done is help himself,
right?
I would assume there's something out there that Kiper and McShay, they have all these sources and things and people but who knows what it is? And it might be nothing, but
Yep.
it is a little bit surprising.
As you always remind me, all it takes is one to say yes on that. So I mean, people can freak out about all they want. I think we were in this same exact boat last year when talking about Christian Watson and his potential of, well, he could be in the end of the first round or he could be somewhere, and they end up obviously going with the 34th overall pick in the draft. I mean, we could be in that boat or could wait a bit. We don't know. Tucker Kraft's name's not on here either, which that's a surprising one too from South Dakota State.
I think whatever team takes Cody, I mean, we know, NDSU fans know, anyone who's watching know, like they're gonna be excited about it. I mean, look at Cordell Volson. He didn't go in the first 2 rounds. He started every single game for a team that went to the AFC Championship. So it's you want to be, obviously the higher you are, the more money you make. You want to be higher.
Absolutely.
Everyone gets that part of it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. He's going to be on a team. He'll probably be starting whatever team he goes to, and if not, he's going to be the guy that can play any position. He's going to have a lot of value for whatever team gets.
It's the allure of having the one next to it, right? The first round pick. But honestly, now with the attention that goes on day 2 with the second and third round guys, there's no slouch. There's no slouch there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you still get all the coverage. And again, he's going to get an opportunity, and that's really what matters the most at the end of the day.
And I'm looking here. I mean, just on Kuiper's mock, there's no FCS guys. So we anticipate that Cody's going to be likely the first. Here and Kraft are going to be probably 1-2 of the FCS guys. Like Cole Strange got drafted from Chattanooga last year in the first round. Now that was a curveball. No one saw that
one coming.
No.
So like we said, we sit here for 4 months and we look at mock drafts and we look at what the experts are saying, and then it changes, and then you get to draft day and everything changes. Things blow up. People trade. People take a position that you're like, they didn't have a need there. What are they doing there? They take a quarterback. They don't take a quarterback. And that's the fun, that's the drama of the NFL draft, and that's why we all love it.
I wanted to talk to you about a couple things here, including tomorrow there's going to be a large vote by the NCAA competition committee about changing the recruiting calendar, which I'm interested about because I'm always interested in how early, then it's going to start even earlier. I want to get to that in a second. We talked about this off the top of the show. I have NFL Sunday Ticket. Have you ever dove into that?
I have not. My parents did when I was playing.
Okay, great example there. Did they buy a satellite dish just to see it, or did they have one already?
I think they did.
Okay.
I think they did.
So now it's going to go to YouTube TV is going to have it for about, depending on if you bundle with the Red Zone, about $400. Depending, now you play fantasy football, or used to, right?
I only have once, surprisingly.
Okay.
Yeah, one time.
But the amount of gambling that goes around now with the NFL, I think that would probably be, for some, would be a slam dunk. Like, I'm going to get this, and I'm not even going to think twice about it.
Absolutely. I think
with fantasy football and gambling,
because if you have
there's a double whammy
with
there.
Fantasy football, you have all these players, and if they're not on your in your local area and going to be broadcast on the local station, then you can't watch them. Or if you have a favorite team that's outside of your area and you can't watch them,
right?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I have had Red Zone before, which I really enjoy.
That's fantastic
because you're not getting the entire game, but for someone like me who's not necessarily like a specific fan of one team. I get to see all the action. I get to see every game. Maybe not the whole thing, but I don't really care about seeing the whole thing. I get to see snippets of that. So there's my little plug for Red Zone. I have enjoyed Red Zone.
All right. So it's going to be voted on tomorrow and on Thursday. This is the report from the NCAA. The football comprehensive recruiting model would modify the FBS and FCS recruiting calendars, adjust the first date to send recruiting materials, electronic correspondence and telephone calls, permit in-person off-campus contacts with high school juniors, reduce off-campus recruiting activities, and in the football championship subdivision, modify on-campus evaluations. That's a big one, I thought, as well in the FCS. The most noteworthy item, and this is FCS and FBS, is the move to 33 evaluation days in the fall months, September, October, November, when designated staff from member institutions can be off-campus to assess potential student athletes. Now, that's not allowed, if I remember right now, or at least certainly not that many days. That's a heck of a lot more.
Honestly, Dom, just hearing you read all that, it just kind of makes me chuckle. Because it's like, who's going to remember all that? I mean, there's a reason why people have compliance officers, full-time NCAA compliance people that work in the athletic department to remember all these different things. And we've talked about this, I think a couple of weeks ago, and it's just, the rules are, yes, they need to lessen. People are already doing all these things anyway.
Correct.
I think they need to make it more black and white, more clear cut, and here's what you can do, and here's when you can't. But again, it comes back, who's enforcing all these things?
The one I caught my eye was now for juniors, which normally is September 1 right now. They can get contact. Now it'll go to January 1.
Which makes sense to me.
Right?
I have no issue with that. I think, kids are getting offers as freshmen and sophomores, and it's like, well, I remember thinking that when I was younger, it's like, well, how are they getting an offer when they're not supposed to be contacted yet?
Yeah.
And there's all these rules where you could accidentally bump into them. You could go to the high school and talk to the coach, and then, if you ran into them in the hallway, then it was okay. But if you set up a meeting, that was illegal. Like I said, it seems like it's already happening, so it only makes sense.
Here's the other one, Kyle. School will be limited to 8 off-campus in-person contacts with a prospective student-athlete and the prospect's family members for the junior and senior year combined. Do you remember how many off-campus you had with either NDSU or anybody else leading up to the process?
I'm trying to think of NDSU, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
So when does that period stop? Because I remember Coach Bull came to my house before I committed. Coach Polasek was here at the time too. They came to my house, and then I talked to Coach Cooper at my high school as far as off-campus stuff. I think that was about it.
And that can happen.
It wasn't a ton.
Yeah, and it can happen during the student-athlete's junior year in high school can only occur at the student-athlete's educational institution. Okay. So they can go to school now on this one.
So at my actual school, I think it was once.
Yeah.
And then they came and did a in-home visit, I think after I had done my official visit to NDSU. So, 2 or 3 times.
It's a lot of in-the-weeds stuff, but I think for people that are into the recruiting part of this, it's an important deal because this is it's gonna change the amount of times that, let's just say, the Bison coaching staff can go out and see a player, let's just say here in the immediate area. If they want to go and do that, they can now do that more, which is going to up it during the season, which is, again, another challenge of that because you're obviously game planning, and now there's the window you can go and do more visits during the season.
Yeah, I think it's going to add to the whole roster management piece of it. We've already seen teams kind of embrace that with the transfer portal. Well, now you can't just rely heavily on your head coach to be the only person evaluating the roster because you don't know who's going to be there, who's in the transfer portal. You got to look at a ton of different things. And now you got to manage, okay, now we can go visit these kids more often. Other schools are going to be doing it, so we have to do it. Do they have to increase coaches? Do they have to increase staff a little bit? We'll see how it plays out. But, again, I still think it all makes sense. It's already happening anyway.
Yeah, it's something I think that they are looking for to, I guess, open up the doors on this. The FCS on-campus recommendation would take effect June 1. So that's happening for the class of 2024 guys. So that's a huge piece here because the Bison already have a bunch of offers out for class of 2024 yet to get their first verbal commitment. But that could certainly maybe speed up that process as well.
Yeah, exactly. The more you can get in front of a kid and kind of show them what you have to offer, I think it just, I don't know. Again, just looking at it holistic, it just seems like it makes sense. It just...
I'm interested just in your deal because you waited because you had your offer come as the
October, November.
Your senior year was already going.
Yeah.
Now everything is moved up. How that would have changed had certain schools come in earlier, you would have made your mind up probably a heck of a lot earlier, right?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. And and this is more. Well, I guess that's more of the draft process. But I think teams were looking at me as a junior, but then I had a really good senior year as well.
And I think that still will happen too.
I think it will, but and just talking to some coaches, I know a lot of times they're done with that class before they even start their senior year. There might be a few kids that are on their radar, a few kids that pop their senior year that they have a couple spots open for, but the amount of spots open for seniors now who have maybe a mediocre first 3 years,
or you're hurt,
whatever, and then you shine your senior year. It's a little bit different now. I don't, it is an interesting question, Dom. Would I have ended up at NDSU?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows what would have? Would they even have looked at me at that point, or would I have committed to a D2 school just to get the process over with? Because it is, for a high school kid, it's a lot. Especially, I didn't have that many schools coming to call, but I had a fair amount.
Yeah.
I can't imagine some of these kids that are 2, 3-star, 4-star recruits, and how many schools are sending them letters and calling them and asking them to come to visits and camps. It's a lot. So if they wanted to get the process over with quicker, I couldn't blame him.
I'm interested, though, because it's always a trickle-down. So if the calendar moves up earlier and it's going to start for the big boys, right, that there will be guys that will still – they'll miss. Like, you know what? You just said, we're going to get everybody we want right now and locked in. Well, wait a minute. This guy's blowing up, but we don't have any more scholarships to offer he may – find his way down the pipe.
I think it might benefit the FCS.
Yes.
And it already has. And we've seen, if you look at the FCS has a lot of success with offensive linemen because they get the guys that aren't necessarily built to play right away. But, I think of like a Joe Haig who was 230 pounds or whatever he was when he got to NDSU and then developed. He had all the skills, had the size, had everything, but just wasn't, FBS schools probably weren't looking at him because he just didn't fit the mold.
Right.
I think you might see some more guys like that slip through the cracks because, like you said, everything's now pushed up, and you're going to see some guys that, develop a little bit. I mean, they're 17-year-olds, 16 years old. I mean, they still got some growing to do. Maybe some of the bigger schools miss on them. Maybe it's better for the FCS, and then, then that leads into the whole discussion of the transfer portal where they stay, and that's a whole nother topic.
The minutia of this, though, is so much that it just can kind of blind you. That's what you need. That's what you need. Like you mentioned, compliance. You need almost 2 or 3 staff members totally dedicated to this part. They have nothing to do with the on-the-field part. You know what I mean? Like I know the upper echelon, the FBS, the Power 5 have 30-some-odd staff members, and this is why. Because they want to make sure that if they nail this, they're going to be really good on the field.
You need people to be like, hey, we visited this guy 6 times. We got 2 more.
Yeah,
whatever, like different things like that.
Unbelievable, man.
Because, you need coaches coaches are still always going to be involved, but they need to be focused on the on-field stuff, game planning, things like that.
Well, like you said, roster management now, there are coaches that just work on that. Like, how many years does this guy have left? Has he used his COVID year yet? Has, or where are we heading in the portal? It's amazing now that it's almost NFL-like in what we're seeing in college football.
You almost need, in the NFL, they have college scouts and pro scouts. They have guys that, you think pro scouts, they're just scouting other teams. No, they're scouting other players, too, that become free agents that you can sign. Almost need that a little bit in college football now because the weird thing about college football is you don't know who's going to enter the transfer portal. You can't really be scouting other players and be like, he would really fit our team. Well, you don't know if he's going to enter the transfer portal, but you need guys that are at least looking at it, evaluating it, and seeing, if we have a need that arises, is this a guy that we can go and grab?
Here's a story that just came through from ESPN. At least 6 teams have inquired with the Arizona Cardinals about trading up for the 3rd overall pick, according to Adam Schefter. So obviously the Cardinals are sitting there. They've got Kyler Murray. The Cardinals are a dumpster fire as they are, but that would clearly be whoever wants to get up there wants to get a quarterback that's not C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young.
I like it. I'm not fully,
but who's the 3rd quarterback is the question.
Yeah, that's who knows. But I'm of the mindset a little bit, and I'm not fully bought into this, but like if you're that high of a pick and you don't need a quarterback, like can you trade back and get more value? Can you get more picks for a team that obviously has some holes to fill? Or do you want to just go get the best available guy? If you have like Will Anderson from Alabama, like if you have a guy that you're just like, we want him, we don't care about, trading back and getting more picks, then go ahead and take him. But if not, if you have a lot of holes to fill, especially like I even think of like the number 1 overall pick, if you don't need a quarterback right there.
That's why the Bears did, and that's what the Bears did.
Exactly. And so it makes sense from that standpoint.
Anthony Richardson's the name, man. It's so similar to what I think with Trey Lance from a couple years ago. I have the same vibe with him that I did with when Trey blew up 2 years ago in this.
I agree. I think he's kind of, I don't want to say wild card, but like he's just, I think his ceiling is so high. And now it is a little bit of a risk, but I think he could really transform into something special at the NFL, something we haven't necessarily seen in a while. He's going to be different than a Mahomes. I think he could potentially be, he's not Lamar Jackson, but I mean, his numbers at the combine show what kind of athlete he is. I think teams are kind of falling in love with that, and it'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if he went in the top 5. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if he slid a little bit. And then that remains to be seen.
And that's why it's the highest rated event that always happens every single year, is for that exact reason. We're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. A little bit more here with Cade Emanuel joining us on a Tuesday. We're back after this on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Back here with Cade Emanuel as we continue on a Tuesday morning. NDSU is into its final 2 weeks of spring ball. I can remember just asking when this stretch, when you got in the 2 weeks to go, you're like, all right, let's just get this over and done with in spring ball from your days.
Oh yeah, always. Spring ball was, especially when you play in the national championship, it just came so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a week or two off, and then you were back to lifting, and then before you knew it, you were back into pads, and it was just like, how did this happen? But it's the players know how important it is, and I knew how important it was too when I was playing. But still, you get towards the end of school. Now it gets really tough because the weather is starting to get nicer. You see people outside doing things, and you're constantly, going to practice and trying to study for finals and different things like that. It becomes a little bit of a mental grind as well, and I think I could speak for most of the guys on the team. They're going to be looking forward to when it's over with.
We looked at Dane Brugler put out The Beast, which is his 300 guide of different players for the NFL draft yesterday. He had Cody graded in the second round, had Hunter Lipke in the 6th of the 7th round, had Noah Gindorf in the 7th round as a potential grade. Noah's going to have his individual pro day coming up on Thursday. And I think if they can, we talked about this a little bit during our pro day coverage, if he's able to go out on Thursday, show that he can still move pretty well, I think he has all the physical attributes, Kyle, that he's going to get a look. He's going to get a shot.
Yeah, I think he could have a similar, and again, this is my opinion, but I thought Hunter Lipke did a lot.
I thought he made some money.
Good things on pro day, showed that he was healthy. We've already talked about all the tape that he has. His resume was kind of built there, but now it's just, well, how can you recover from this injury that you had? And I thought he checked all those boxes at pro day and put up some really good numbers. I think the exact same thing could happen for Noah Gindorf. Unfortunately for him, he's been kind of injured the last 2 years, and it was an injury that had already happened and a surgery that didn't necessarily work. So now that's going to be obviously the biggest question mark for him. If he can come out on Thursday and show that, I can still move around, I've recovered exactly how I wanted to recover from this injury, and show teams, I'm still that same guy.
Yeah.
I think the sky's the limit for him, but that's going to be the big question mark. Do teams trust that ankle and the health of it?
This is what Brugler said. Overall, the medical feedback after back-to-back season-ending ankle surgeries will determine if Gindorf is drafted or not. But when healthy, he catches the ball well and relishes the dirty work as an inline blocker. He projects as a throwback wide tight end capable of winning a number 2 blocking role. That sounds exactly like what he could do.
100%.
Yeah.
Look, we see tight ends in the NFL that are just kind of pass catchers. We see some that are more blockers, and I think, he'd be a perfect number 2 tight end. Teams like to play 12 personnel and get 2 tight ends on the field. If he can be that guy, he's obviously no stranger to run blocking, and some tight ends just aren't willing to do that. I don't think you're going to find a tight end coming out of NDSU that isn't willing to block in the run game, and I think that's going to be where he adds the most value.
This is what he had to say on Lipke. I'm curious to get your feedback on this. Overall, Lipke was a college running back who projects best as a hybrid fullback with H-back pass-catching traits. He needs to find an NFL offense willing to utilize his skill set, but can help his chances by starring on special teams coverage. That stood out to me because obviously you did that your entire NFL career. That's not something we've seen a whole lot from Lipke in college that I can remember.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know that I can't remember him being on a ton of special teams. I would be shocked if he wasn't at least involved a little bit when he was younger. But yeah, exactly. I mean, fullbacks outside of some of the outliers like Juszczyk in San Francisco, that's going to be where the value is for them as well. They're kind of like linebackers in terms of, you're going to be on the, depending on what linebacker it is, but you might be involved in certain packages, but if you can be a core special teams guy and you can play on all 4, you can add value to any team.
Right.
But I think that analysis is perfect. I think if he gets on the right team and the right offense that uses him correctly, I think the sky's kind of the limit for Hunter Lipke and what he can do in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball, but either way, with his size and his speed, he is ideal for every single special teams, and that might be where he starts. I think he could start right away on any offense if you can utilize him correctly. But special teams, that's something. It's kind of weird. Scouts ask that a lot. Are you willing to play special teams?
That was my next question. Yeah.
What
is the answer? You're not going to say no.
The answer better be yes. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
How often did you get asked that? And you did it in college. You did it a lot in college.
Did it in the national championship game my senior year. I don't remember the exact number, but it was definitely asked.
Yeah.
Did you play special teams? Are you willing to do it? Yeah. Obviously.
I was going to say, in the coaching up and leading up to the draft process, isn't every answer yes?
Yes. anything I can do to help the team. That was always my answer. And maybe it might just be one of those things where, like, it's such an obvious yes question that if someone does say no, it's like, okay,
shocking then, right?
Red flag,
yes.
Yep. We might need to look into some things here.
What's the under/over on when you can get out and play a round of golf right now? We got some good melting going on today.
I would say I left for the weekend and I came back and it looked like a different city a little bit. From Thursday, not knowing if I could even drive on the interstate to coming back, and I'm going to say
April 11th right now.
I'm going to say in a month.
Okay.
I'm going to be a little. I think that's a little optimistic.
I said May 1, May 1st. I thought so.
That would be ideal.
I
think that would even be maybe sooner than last year.
We were right around there last year.
5th,
yeah,
some courses open last year. Let's just say I'm looking forward. I'm tired of hitting off mats.
He's wearing shorts today, folks. He's optimistic. I love it.
I'm looking forward.
Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you next week. There he is, Cade Emanuel, NDSU defensive end, All-American, 2010 to 2014. We'll take a break. We come back. One of the standout pitchers for the Bison who led them to the win over Texas Tech, Bismarck's Cade Feeney, will join us. We come back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a Tuesday morning edition of Hot Mic, WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. Want to mention coming up Thursday morning, a traditional interview we do each year before the NFL draft. Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, will be back with us on Thursday to preview the NFL draft. He obviously had Cody Mauch down there in Mobile, was up here, invited Hunter Lipke. We know he's going to invite Noah Gindorf as well, so we'll get Jim's thoughts about the Bison guys and the FCS guys coming up. That's Thursday morning, 10:30 here on The Big Show. We mentioned it yesterday in our tops of the weekend. We saw the Bison baseball team go down to Lubbock, Texas, and beat 22nd ranked Texas Tech. They're back on the road tonight. They're taking on the University of Minnesota. They'll stay in the Twin Cities this weekend as they'll go back into Summit League play to take on University of St. Thomas. The standout on Friday night, the pride of Bismarck Century, Cade Feeney was a 6 innings, struck out 5, allowed 1 run in the Bison victory. He joins us here. I've interviewed him, seems like, for about 10 years now, and he's good enough to join us on this Tuesday morning. Is there a sport that you tried that you weren't good at? Is there one that you just said, you know what, this is my cup of tea?
I goofed around with tennis, and that's definitely not my cup of tea.
That was it, huh? One try and that was done?
Yeah, shut that down real quick.
It's great to see you. Congratulations on the win on Friday. Let's just start with the travails of getting to Lubbock. I was texting with Tyler Oakes about this last week. You were supposed to leave last Wednesday, so take us through that of the team actually getting there.
Yeah, so we were supposed to leave Wednesday morning, and we kind of knew with the storm that just wasn't going to happen, so we were ready for that. So then we bus to Minneapolis Thursday morning around 5, and we were split into 2 groups. First group flew Southwest, got out fine. And then we were at the 2:00 flight for American, and it kept getting postponed, and then it finally just got canceled. So then we stayed in Minneapolis, flew out at 5 a.m. the next day for the game on Friday. That got postponed till 9, so we would have missed our connector. So then we found another flight, got to Dallas, and then we split up into another 2 groups. So I was in the first group. We got there around 2 p.m. And then there was 3 or 4 guys and the 2 other coaches that got to the field like an hour before game time. So,
and these are guys that were on the lineup, right? You mentioned Peter Brookshaw, your starting second baseman. He got there an hour before the game?
Yeah. We were taking BP and we saw the bus pull in, and they were walking with their travel gear on and no jersey or nothing. So
wow, yeah. If that doesn't explain what life is like mid-major and in baseball, I don't know what does, man. You just got to kind of just roll with the punches, I imagine, right?
Yeah, you just know, you expect it not to go plan, and that's how it usually works. So
Describe the mentality then for yourself going out there. You know you're going to face a really good lineup. They're ranked. They can rake it all over. What was your mindset going out there, knowing all this of the hassle of just trying to get there?
Yeah, Oaks did a really good job just talking with the guys, knowing that obviously everything that's gone on, like we're not supposed to win against these guys, and with the travel day, like people don't care. No one's feeling sorry for us. So that was kind of my mentality, just go out there and get the job done. So, and he had a good scouting report on these guys. Not a lot of teams have gone in mostly. So we tried going in a lot on most of their guys.
When, for you, did you feel like you were in a groove? Was there a certain at-bat, a certain inning, like, all right, I think I got something going tonight?
I would say probably the third inning. There was it's kind of where my slider started actually working a lot better. The first 2 innings, it was iffy, but we got through both innings with 1 run. So I was like, okay. And then that third inning, everything kind of loosened back up and got a groove there.
6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. You take that line every day of the week, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll take that any day.
Especially against that kind of lineup. So when you come out of the game, you guys have the lead, and Skyler's coming in. For you, are you at the top rail, the dugout? How do you do where you watch the rest of the game?
Yeah, I'm usually top rail. Always watch the guy who comes in after me because, obviously he's picking me up, trying to do his job. So I got to be there to support Sky. And Sky and I have been doing this since we were 9 together. So it's nice to see him go in after me because you have that trust with him. And I knew he was going to get the job done. And then, yeah, you pretty much just watch him do his thing.
I mentioned that, I'm watching the game, Cade, on Friday night. I'm like, wow, this is really neat. You got 2 Bismarck kids, 2 Century guys. As you mentioned, you guys have known each other forever. How special was that you pitched that well, and then he comes in and closes the door, and you guys win the game? 2 North Dakota guys doing that.
Yeah, it's awesome to see that, especially 2 small town guys just competing at a high level against one of the best. So, I mean, that's kind of just what it is. And we talked about it before or after that game. That was the second time, I think, in our NDSU career that we've gone just us 2. So, yeah, it's pretty special.
How often does he bring up the touchdown catch he had in the state championship game? Is that still a topic of conversation, the one he went up and got?
Yeah, usually we always goof around and talk about it as soon as football season rolls around. But yeah, good times.
I know people will see the record and say, boy, Bison baseball, man, not that great. How do you internally view how the season has gone so far?
I say collectively as a team, we know that we're better than what our record shows. And it's like if people want to look at our record and say, you know what, they're not good, that's fine by us. We really don't care what anyone else thinks. But with the teams that we've played, and like we've been with Arizona State, who's now ranked top 25, been with Texas, lost by 2 or 3, I think, in midweeks. So I mean, we've had the competition that we've played, and I think that we're ready for a conference. And if we can keep this thing rolling, then we should be in a good spot.
Well, you've gone out and won your first 2 league series to win 2 out of 3. How big is that to start conference play the way you have?
Yeah, it's a good start, and I think conference standings right now, it can change really quick with how if you drop 2 games in a series. And so obviously this weekend against St. Thomas is going to be another good test. We got to go out there and do the job.
For life we hear this all the time with the spring sports team. I mean, you played obviously a spring sport in high school. Just knowing full well, all right, you're supposed to have a home game a week from tonight. You know that's probably not going to happen. Do you just kind of grin and bear it or say, boy, this sucks? They can't do anything with moving the schedule. I mean, how do you mentally adjust for that?
It's kind of you just don't really put too much pressure. Obviously, it'd be nice to play home games and stay at home, but you get used to the life on the road, and then it kind of just becomes second nature. So it's not terrible, but yeah, home games would be nice. So
I ask you that because you're supposed to have Oral Roberts here next week. That's a huge series. That's probably the highlight series of the year. How frustrating would that be if the series gets taken away from Newman just because there's still going to be snow on the ground here?
Yeah. There's a little, I guess it's going to be tough with them because now we have to travel as well, and then we don't get that home field. But it's same thing. Just go out there and we'll be the home team, so we'll get that kind of edge. But yeah.
How big a deal is it, Cade? The Summer League Baseball tournament is going to be at Newman Outdoor Field. That's a reward for you guys winning the regular season championship last year.
Yep. So that's kind of what is that most of our team is looking forward to, as in, like, we won't get a lot of home games, but as long as the conference tournament's here, we'll still have that little edge that we feel like we'll be able to at least hopefully play here.
How big a deal is that to have that at Newman, though? That you fought for that. You've traveled before. You've obviously won it on the road before. A couple of years ago, did that to now have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament and do it here in Fargo.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool experience being able to host it, and I think the guys are ready for it. So it's kind of just wait and keep going with the conference schedule.
Okay, and I got to ask this. In your heart of hearts, who could throw harder, you or your older brother? Could do. Who could throw harder?
Right now?
Yes.
Or
right now?
Now.
Let's do right now.
Right now, I would like to say I would, but I still think he could probably bump it up. But yeah, definitely him, not me.
Which one of the two of you was better suited to play football? Because you both played football, both played quarterback at Century. Which one was the better quarterback then?
Oh gosh, better quarterback. True quarterback, him comes to triple threat. Nah, not him. Me. I'll take me.
Was there another sport that you consider doing that? I knew you play basketball. What was one you said? You know what? Twist my arm. I may switch and not do bait. Was there other one that teased you like that?
Maybe football a little bit for free safety, but nothing. Nothing. It would have been really tough to change. So.
I'll ask you this before I let you go, because the high school kids are out here still haven't played a game, and I know you played Legion as well. If they were to move the season, maybe even a month in high school ball, would that hurt North Dakota high school baseball because it run into Legion? How would you feel about that?
I think it would hurt a little bit with Legion, knowing that obviously spring ball is a big deal too in North Dakota, but I feel like Legion, you get, for guys that are trying to play at the next level, Legion is kind of the more where you get your name out there because you're playing bigger teams and you're traveling. So you're playing in front of people.
Right.
So I think it would hurt that aspect. But, I mean, it'd be nice to move a month back so high schoolers can actually get their games in.
So tonight you guys are playing the Gophers. What do you do tonight? You're not pitching tonight. Where are you up to? What is your role tonight?
I'll get my throwing in. Usually I throw a pen on Tuesdays. So, but then after that, it's either I'm in the dugout rooting on the guys or I'm up in the stands charting. So I really hope I'm not charting today. I just sit there in sweatpants and write down a bunch of stuff.
That was my next question. So what goes into chart? Like, what are you writing down?
So we take velos on opposing pitchers and our guys. And then we follow the game. So we go strikes, balls, location, and then you pretty much just write notes, what works well, what's not. Yeah, it's a good time.
So it sounds as exciting as possible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's great to see you, man. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes. Congrats on the great game. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, bud. There he is, Cade Feeney, NDSU junior pitcher, Summit League standout pitcher of the week after the Bison got the win over Texas Tech. He went 6 innings, struck out 5 in the Bison victory over the Red Raiders. NDSU plays tonight against Minnesota. You can actually watch that game on the Big Ten Network Plus. 6 o'clock first pitch for the Bison and the Gophers tonight. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll put a wrap on the show and get you ready for a great Tuesday night for the local sports teams. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps right after this on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Busy show as we wrap it up on this Tuesday. ESPN alert that just came in. Packers, Jets still discussing Aaron Rodgers trade amid delay. No sign of imminent deal. There you go. Well, you know why? Because the NFL draft is still 16 days away. That's why we're not going to have anything happen until then. So that's why there's no imminent deal. Let's go back to our poll question before we wrap up our show, which we were talking about the new deal for YouTube TV with NFL Sunday Ticket. The pricing is now in on it. We asked, after seeing the YouTube TV price for Sunday Ticket, will you be getting it for the 2023 football season? That actually surprised me, the amount of votes we got. 51% on didn't have it anyway. 33% saying nope, it's too much. 16% on sure, gonna re-up on it. I'm undecided on it right now because I like it. I like it for the red zone. But you can't just get it for the red zone now. You have that because the NFL Network has its own red zone deal. If you're going to do this, you got to get the whole shebang. That was the nice part about on DirecTV. You could do it that way, but that doesn't appear to be an option. Also, as we get into what to watch here, this adds another layer of intrigue for the game tonight for the old Timberwolves, as they put out their availability for the game tonight against the Lakers. And on the status report, on questionable, it now has Karl Anthony Towns on there for the right calf strain. That's new. Already we knew that Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Goebert are out, and obviously Naz Reid is out after his injury. Now Cat's on there. So the Wolves going to full-on tanking for this game, and then we got another one in our back pocket at home on Friday to play either New Orleans or Oklahoma City. It wouldn't surprise me with this franchise. Again, nothing ever would with that. But Cat now is questionable for the game tonight against the Lakers. And that leads us into what to watch for tonight. Is you got the trifecta tonight. All the Minnesota teams that play in this time of the year are playing tonight. Let's start with the Wild. They are in their regular season finale as they take on the Winnipeg Jets. That's at 7 o'clock on Bally Sports North Plus. They have the game tonight. It's the I mentioned home regular season finale for the Wild, who sit 2 points behind Colorado and Dallas in the Central Division standings with one game to go with Nashville after that. The Minnesota Twins are on Bally Sports North tonight. 6:30 start there as they play Game 2 against the Chicago White Sox. Former Twin great Lance Lynn will start for the White Sox. Pablo Lopez will make his third start for Minnesota. He's been great in his first two starts for the Twins. He'll make his home debut at Target Field tonight. First night game for the Twins at Target Field tonight as they'll take on the White Sox. And as we mentioned, the Wolves and the Lakers tonight, 9 o'clock. On TNT. That's not on Bally Sports North. That's exclusive to TNT tonight for that matchup, as they have the exclusive TV of that. Again, in L.A., the winner of that game is the 7 seed. The loser will play the winner of Oklahoma City and New Orleans. That game is tomorrow night in New Orleans. Zion's not coming back anytime soon, so I guess you don't have to worry about him. But Brandon Ingram is still a beast for New Orleans. If we're already going to start looking ahead, if the Wolves are, we still will as well, if the Pelicans and the Thunder winner. I'll give a shout-out to OKC, by the way. They could have easily tanked this year after Chet Holmgren got hurt in the summer. You remember they drafted Holmgren with the number 2 overall pick, the star from Minnesota, but they played well enough to get into the play-in tournament and still have a bunch of draft picks coming. Shout out to OKC that they may be on the rise a lot sooner than anybody thought there in the NBA's Western Conference. So we'll see. Going to be an interesting night for the Timberwolves, for everybody on the Minnesota side of things. They got everybody playing tonight. We got to go. Thanks to our guests today, to Mike McFeely, Cade Emanuel, and to Cade Feeney. If you missed any of our program, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. We appreciate you watching. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Enjoy the warm weather. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com.